give a real far hand over there. This is good.
I got good and close to get pictures of you guys.
Did Ray Ann leave? Oh,
Yeah, she's back
She's back here.
working the crowd.
Working the crowd. Show business.
Selling popcorn.
Politics.
Yeah.
Hey, Ram, we need you up here.
Ryan, you're gonna have to sing if you don't come up.
You know what she said? She married in. She doesn't sing or dance.
She's back there with Brenda and Rowan and Karen Hall, so that's...
Karen and Brenda, so let's be fair. You can't get away from those folks.
Hello to everyone and welcome to the museum. The Branson Centennial Museum is also associated with the White River Valley Historical Society, which has a museum and research library in Forsyth. And we are provided for through donations and memberships. This museum receives no public funds. You may have noticed as you came in, I hope quite well, some beautiful crystals from the Grand Palace Theater chandelier. And we're certainly happy to share those with you and hope you will welcome some of them into your possession. On this coming weekend, there's a notice between the two doors on the wall about a portrait of a pumpkin, a fair at the Crystal Crystal Fish Gifts down near the on the north side of the landing. And there will be about 20 original art pieces for auction, all benefiting this museum. So I would urge you to take a look at that poster between the doors as you go out. We were also in this particular location since 2016 through the good graces Barb and Joe Reish, who have allowed us in here rent-free. So I express our appreciation. The November program, the third Tuesday, will be entertaining the troops from World War II to Vietnam with Jody Medeiros and Valerie Hill from the All Hands on Deck show. It'll be, you might speak of as a musical lecture chronicling the efforts made by Bob Hope and some of Hollywood's most popular actors in entertaining the troops. So I think you'll find that musically entertaining. Remember, November 16, the third Tuesday. Now, I've known the Presleys several years, but we have with us someone who knows them far better than I do, and certainly would know more intimate details of their lives. We're having another person here who's been before this audience in this museum on other occasions. Steve Willoughby, will you introduce the Presleys and say what you wish about them?
Wow, that's an introduction. Thank you, sir, very much. Can we have a round of applause for just the History Museum? I feel like I have my back to you, and I apologize for that. What a great honor and a great opportunity to do this. I don't know how intimate, and I noticed that Miss Rayanne almost left when she heard that, but we appreciate her staying. But it goes back a long time. In fact, one of the last conversations I had with my grandfather, Howard Willoughby, he said, "I hear you're hobnobbing with the Presleys now." And I said, "Well, I don't know that I'm hobnobbing with the Presleys, but have had a great opportunity to do a radio show at their theater." He goes, "Man, they're good people." I don't think they ever met my grandfather, but the impact that this family had on my family growing up and millions of families is amazing. So it could get a little emotional for me because I'm older now, and just, you know, seeing a butterfly can be emotional for me at this particular time. So it wasn't always like that. Gary, how are you?
I'm good, just getting older, and couldn't be better. I came to see Karen Hall.
Yeah, there she is, right back there.
Yeah.
Brought the drumsticks and all.
Oh, good. Okay, that's all I've got.
Okay, that will conclude the program. Thanks for being here. Gary, for being the face of the area,
That's
kind of
scary.
like your quiet time too, don't you?
Do I like it or
Yeah.
do I have? Oh yeah, I play Herkimer on the show, and I don't know how many know that, but anyway, I've done it be almost 60 years this next year, and yeah, I have two different worlds. I get to be a 15-year-old kid. That's when I started playing Herkimer. I was 15, and I can get my costume now, and I kind of go back to that same mentality and get away with things that I used to couldn't. I couldn't get away with as Gary at the age I am now. But the face of the area, I don't know. I'm on a lot of signs, and I know my snapshot is in a lot of dresser drawers in homes all over the place. So, but anyway, that's what I do.
Anybody here believe that Herkimer was the face of the area and is the face of the area?
Yes.
Look at that. We're going to come back. We've got great questions for you.
Well, thank you. Well, I will say this, and I don't want to get too political on this, but comedy, as far as the shows down here, has always been a big deal. Help really build the area. And there are people that don't like the hillbilly image and all. But, when people come to Branson, I compare it to going to Hawaii. When you go to Hawaii, you want to see a hula girl. I mean, I say you want to. You're probably going to see them because people don't do that anymore other than they do it as a costume. Well, when people come to Branson and the Ozarks, they want to see a hillbilly. Doesn't mean we're all hillbillies and not smart, but they want to see that. So I hate to say this, but I'm fulfilling their fantasy.
See, I look at that as kindness and goodness, and this world needs a lot of kindness
Well,
and
yeah,
goodness.
I agree.
Amen.
Miss Pat,
Yes,
thanks for being here.
well, you bet. I don't get out much. This is a big deal.
So when I was researching and going back and reading the books, they were talking about the millions and millions of people, and then the family grew to 4 generations and all of that. Did Gary have that planned out when he asked you to marry him? Did he say, this is how this is going to be? We're going to go
No.
through all of that? and
No,
do
if
that?
he had of, I might have run. No, we didn't know what. We didn't have that kind of plans. We weren't planning. We didn't know what the future was. We were so young, we didn't think about it.
Well, we were married, I'm gonna cut in, we were married, about 4 months before
Yeah.
we opened the theater here in Branson.
Yeah.
And in those 4 months, we decided that we were, not just us, but the rest of our family, that we wanted to build a theater in Branson. And we'll go deeper into that, but no, she didn't.
No, I didn't have any idea.
That wasn't Gary's plan and all of that?
No, didn't know. Well, I don't know if he had that kind of plan. He wanted to find some place to play music.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
and I just happened to be his friend and partner, so
Well,
I followed him.
Tell about Hillcrest High School and what the honor that you guys just got on that. So.
Oh, well,
Sorry.
that's all right.
Thanks, folks.
Tell
We've all got fun.
them we said hi. Pat and I went to, graduated from Hillcrest High School in Springfield, Missouri. And I graduated in 1965, she graduated in 1966. And we were just average students. I played basketball and she was one of the Highlanders.
I
of the
was
drum
very
corps.
average.
But anyway, I think it was 20 years ago, the high school inducted both of us into their Hillcrest High School Hall of Fame. Not for what we did in school, because we were real average, but what has happened since then. And then 4 years ago, the Springfield, I hate to say this, sounds like a bragging, but Springfield Public Schools inducted us, the two of us, into their Hall of Fame. And it's pretty, thank you. It's pretty unique, and the family's in several halls of fames and walks of fames and stuff. But that one's real special to us too. The schools have been there over 150 years. Been millions of students go, and by now I think there's maybe 30 people in their Hall of Fame. So that was a real honor, and that still kind of chokes me up to even think about that. So anyway, that's where we went.
That's
We went
where
to
we are.
Hillcrest High School together. I met her out I was a senior, she was a junior. They had a fire drill. We walked out and happened to end up standing by each other. And I thought, boy, I like her. We had known each other before, but anyway, that was it. And then a few years later, she said, yeah, no, you asked me to marry you.
Yeah, I
So it's beginning to work out after 54 and a half years.
did. It's been good. It's been good.
Should we come to Steve and Rayanne?
Yeah.
Miss Rayanne, when I think of you, I think of just really you and Pat and the women of the Presleys, because there was actually a point of the show, and maybe that you're recognized in the importance of the women in the family. How difficult, what do you remember most about joining the family? Because all of us that are marrying into a family, there's always that time, but when you're marrying in with the Presleys, I can imagine a lot of interesting memories. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, I'm kind of like Pat at the time. You know, I was young. Steve,
Yeah, you don't think about
Yeah, I
that.
was 19. Steve was 20 when we got married, and I worked for the bank. And then I think there was an effort to, and I think that kind of continues to some degree, to bring the family. There's always something to do at the theater. So if you're interested and you have a desire to do some job at the theater, and so I came in doing some of the roles that Steve's mom had done. So I came in to help with the payroll and eventually pay the bills and do some of those kind of things. But I just think over time what's come about is everyone's found their little niche. So I think Pat and I and Kelly and Melinda especially say, you know, it takes a lot to run this business. It really does. And the men on stage, and daughter-in-law too now, I mean, they make the Presley name. There's no doubt about that. But you know, all the years of behind the scenes where, you know, the help and the costuming and that was Pat's expertise, and the sales, all that had to be done. So I just think you just kind of had to find your way in and not step on people's toes, respect and learn. And I think that's over the years what I managed to do.
And I'm sure we stepped on people's toes.
Well, in fairness, Gary and I and the people on stage get the glory of all this
Yeah,
from that. They don't, they would deal with people up front. There was an issue, the people would be very unhappy and not be the nicest to them. They'd come down and talk to us, and they were nice.
Yeah, that always made me mad. It did, because we'd get chewed out. And they'd go down there and be so nice.
But the reality is the business would never have succeeded as we have without these ladies and Mom just working behind the scenes. And now their daughter-in-laws are running the front end of the theater up there. So a whole bunch of credit goes to them that they don't always get the credit for. So.
Right. And Steve, starting at 10 on the drum, and you've really, when I think of Gary and Steve, and they may say, no, you're wrong, because I have been wrong before, but when I think of Gary and Steve, you guys just really fit together. The strengths and the interests and all of that seem to support each other and build the business. Am I off base there?
No, you're 100% right on that. It's really interesting because back to starting, I'm one of the few people that can say I kind of grew up on Highway 76 and caught a school bus out there. And 76 looked a lot different in 1967, and we were in Springfield, and I went to 5th grade in Doling School, and then moved down here and started 6th grade in Branson. And so it was a big shock moving from that to come down here. But you know, I think back to what Highway 76 looked like, and the friends on the school bus that I still have friends today that rode that school bus through there. But it's such a change from that point. But for Gary and me working together and the whole family, I just commented to Ray in this last week, the business decisions for the four of us, 99% of the time we will land on the same answer, whether any four of us have been talking about that. We have a very similar perspective, caring about the customer, but also making sure that we protect the family's name and the brand of Presleys through that. So yeah, we do. You know, I was laughing about Gary thinking there a while ago. We talked about the Herkimer character. I remember one day we were working on something on stage there. It was something about Gary entering the stage, and Gary goes off stage and he comes in, and he goes into his Herkimer walk. As he walks in, he's in Gary's clothes, but he goes into Herkimer walk. So it is a character for him, but yeah.
He doesn't do that at home.
Thank goodness,
And he doesn't wear the overalls, unless they need to be hemmed up.
But yeah, we do. It's yeah, we're very fortunate, and give our parents respect, the credit for teaching us all to respect each other. I go back to that; they really did. And I know you've heard it before there, but Dad always he would say, "We've got a good thing going here. Don't mess it up." Right. And that really was our perspective of how we looked at it. So,
My favorite, and you'll know this, my favorite Lloyd Presley story that he told to me on radio, because I would ask him every time, was the flat floor back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
Now, you want to tell that story?
yeah, the original building, we put it in there. We had a flat floor in there, with the idea that if it didn't work as a theater, it could be used for boat storage.
Yeah.
And the back of the theater, there is still the track for the double doors that were barn doors that would work to move boats in and out of there, of catch on it. And
Well, nobody had built a theater in Branson, so who knew
Right.
whether it would work? And we went into a little bit of debt.
Yeah.
I don't tell everybody this.
thanks to Pat.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We bought 10.5 acres where our theater sits right now for $15,000. Not 50, $15,000. And then we put $18,000 in the building. So we had, what, $33,000 in the whole investment when we started there.
But we thought that was a lot.
Oh, it was way,
That scared-
There was a lot of money.
That scared us to death, you know.
We were in way overhead. But what Steve was leading up to, we had, when we opened the theater, there were 4 couples of us. A lot of people think Dad opened the theaters up. Well, he was part of it. There were 4 couples of us that went in as equal partners. Mom and Dad, Pat and I, our sister Deanna and her husband Dave, and then David's dad and his wife. And so after, what, a year,
Yeah, just a year. Yeah.
Larry, the father-in-law, and he's the one that had enough money to get us started. We borrowed money from him. But he decided he wanted out of the business because he
Didn't see a future,
He
did he?
didn't see much of a future there. Because on one night we played to 12 people. We did a 2-hour show, so that's what it was like.
He sold his Apple stock a little early. Is
He sold-
that what we're talking
he sold
about?
it a little early.
Thank goodness.
But anyway, he wanted out, and we had to buy him out. Well, we couldn't get any money. Karen, we went to People's Bank across the street. It was across the street. You weren't there, were you? Oh gosh.
I've known you a long time.
I know that.
This was were you there in '68?
No,
No,
not
okay,
Oh,
so you're off the hook now.
You're clear. So we went to People's Bank across the street to try to borrow money to buy our partner out. No, they didn't think it would work. So then we went to Springfield to Citizens Bank in Springfield. No, they wouldn't loan us money. Pat worked as a teller at the bank on the corner, right next to where Dick's is right now. She worked as a teller, and we went in and talked to them. We figured it's over, you know.
At Security Bank.
At
was the name of it.
Security Bank. And they loaned us the money to buy our partner out. Years later, I don't know who all of you know Foster Plummer. Karen, you know Foster Plummer. Oh, I didn't know you were here. Anyway, he told us, he was president of the bank then. He told us many years later the only reason they loaned us the money to buy out our partner was because she was such a good employee.
I had them fooled. Big time.
So the Presleys could have ended right there. And so anyway, yeah, she's done her part.
Thank you, dear.
So I want to follow up with that. Were you the main driver of building the theater on 76? I heard what you said. There was 4 couples. I get that. But were you the main driver?
Well, not the main driver. No.
Steve, do you want to answer that question? I know
Well,
it's a
it
little-
really was family. My sister Deanna, and it was. Remembering this, it was Dad's dream to have a theater.
He wanted a theater, yeah.
It was Lee Mace was at Lake of the Ozarks up there. In fact, Gary was offered a job to work
Yeah.
for Lee Mace up there.
Even before we had
But Lee Mace had the Ozark Opry at Lake of the Ozarks, and it was at the time the family was playing in Fantastic Caverns in Springfield, doing Saturday night shows up there. So it was Dad's dream to kind of have a place in this area down by the lakes because he loved to fish. But it really was the family working together.
Well, what I was gonna say, well, this goes back and gets all intertwined here. Do anybody remember the Ozark Jubilee in Springfield, Missouri?
Sure.
It was a nationwide show on ABC. It was on for 5 or 6 years. And, I mean, that's back when there were only 3 networks. And so there are millions of people that watch it every week on TV, every Saturday night. And after it closed down, the band members up there, Slim Wilson, Speedy Hallworth, and Bob White, they were looking for a place to play. So in about 63 or 4, Bob White, who was the bass player, one of the musicians, found a cave on DD Highway, and just down from Highway 13 there, and found a cave, and he just, well, I keep going back on stuff. I was playing comedy for them afterwards. They needed somebody, comedian on their shows and stuff, so I was doing that. Bob found this cave, and so he named it the Underground Theater, same place where Fairy Cave or Talking Rocks is.
Next to it there,
In that valley. And so we put a show in there, and it was nice and cool, shaped just like an auditorium. And after a while, the band members from the real Ozark Jubilee, they got tired of driving back and forth. So I'd been playing comedy for them. Well, they needed a band, so we had Dad and our 2 sisters. Bob White, who ran it, said, "Well, no, if they would come down and do the show with us." So we did. The problem is, it was off the beaten path. So we'd have good crowds. We might have 100, 150 people, but there were nights you'd have 20 people in there. So that was about to close up, and Dad said, "I bet you if we put a theater over on Highway 76 between Branson, Silver Dollar City, and Shepherd of the Hills, we might pull a few people off there." And we offered it to Bob White and the guy that owned the cave. Well, but they didn't want to do it. So we ended up getting it with the 4 couples of us, and that was it. I'm saying it was a family thing, but I was, gosh, how did I say that?
Well, I'll say for Gary, the character of Herkimer, just what you opened up with there, that has been the hook for us through all the years. That Herkimer character really is what been our trademark all the way through. So, it's hard for him to brag on himself.
Well, I don't brag, but people that were here 50-some years ago, some of them still come back to the show. And some of them are little kids, and they say what they remembered on the show was Herkimer, the comedian. Well, it's just because I was so different than everybody else, There was a lot of guys playing banjos and guitars and stuff. So anyway, does that answer your question?
Absolutely.
Well, I wasn't there in the 60s when all those big decisions were made, but knowing Lloyd and Bessie after we were together, Lloyd to me was the dreamer.
Yeah.
And so Lloyd loved to entertain, he loved people, but if it came down to all the details, it wasn't his thing.
No.
But the details was Bessie. So, nothing went past Bessie because she had it all written down and she had it all in line and she knew just how we were going to do it. And she supported the family and all those decisions. So I really think it was, if there was ever an example of couples together making a dream happen, like Gary and Pat did, and the other families, I really think that was it. Lloyd had the dream, Lloyd had the love for music, and then Bessie said, okay, here's how we could make that happen.
Right.
And so I think it was everybody brought their different skills to the table.
And reading and studying, Miss Bessie graduated and went to college and worked, and I mean, everybody in the family had that Presley work ethic, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
talk about when we opened up, what you guys working in Springfield.
Yeah, we grew up in Springfield, Missouri, over on the north side, the poor side of town, really. And anyway, so right after Pat, we'd been married, a month, maybe? Wasn't long. And we decided we knew we were going to put the theater in, and probably just do Saturday night shows to start with. So I talked her into coming down here with me. She moved down here with me. I worked at Royal Typewriter in Springfield, Missouri. It's a factory up there. So I drove back and forth for almost 2 years, do the show every night, get in bed by midnight, and I had to be at work at 7 o'clock every morning in Springfield. Wow. And Pat worked at the bank down here. So she had to be at work like same hours as me. I think you had to be there at 8 o'clock instead of 7.
Now I don't get up till 11:30.
She's
would
not
fire me.
kidding. She's not kidding. But anyway, the work ethic, we just did it. We were young and probably didn't know any better.
Well, and Mom did the same thing. Mom worked up there for.
Mom worked for just a little while,
Yeah.
and she went to work for Cheney Holman Gas Company down here, and down at the foot of the hills.
By the railroad tracks down
Yeah.
there.
So yeah, we have worked at it.
And I can start talking in the 70s, but the drive to Springfield back then was not the drive to Springfield right now.
No, it's two-lane road.
I mean, you used to call families, hey, we're going to Springfield, do you need anything? Like you were, in a buckboard wagon to bring it back type of thing, yeah.
Well, I made the drive in a Volkswagen too, all the time, a little Volkswagen Bug.
Got great mileage.
Oh, great mileage, yeah. Well, that's an old going into old car stuff. But anyway, that was a tight little drive on that road.
And you were helping Dad at the time, right?
Yeah, with the theater there, as far as day to day and cleaning the theater. Our original seats were canvas folding chairs that we bought from Shepherd of the Hills. When we opened the theater in '67, they had been outside in the bad weather for years and years, and they upgraded to molded plastic chairs at Shepherd of the Hills. So it was a really big step for them. We bought their chairs, what we probably didn't think about, the family didn't at the time.
We gave $1 a piece.
$1 a piece for them. Those chairs were pretty rotten. They were canvas bottoms, so it was not unusual for during the show to see somebody fall through a chair. Seriously, I'm doing that. And at the time, Mom and Pat would grab them a Coke and a popcorn and go give them and get them another chair.
That's before lawsuits were.
Yeah.
And a sellout every night because you put as many chairs out as you needed.
Almost.
Yeah.
But so during the day, I would help, my sister Janice and I would help Dad. We'd clean the theater. I remember pulling all those chairs back and you'd sweep underneath them that. And then we would also walk through the campground and hand out brochures. We had, and the ball numbers were downtown at the lakefront at the time from that. And they, both of us had cars that we put bullhorns on top of and had a speaker inside of it, and we would drive through the campground at downtown Branson and say, come to the show at night. So,
Please.
yeah, it was doing that, but hand out those brochures. But yeah, we worked all the way through.
But you had another job.
Oh yeah, my bumper sticker job.
Your bumper sticker job.
Yeah, at the time we put on bumper stickers, and at that point they were paper bumper stickers with masking tape. So I would play the drums, drum. I would play the drum. It was the snare drum. I would play that first half. Intermission, I would go out and put these bumper stickers on, and I knew when to come back into the theater because I could hear the bass guitar outside for the second half. When I heard that bass start, I would come back in, but going through and putting those bumper stickers on there, and I did that for several years.
When did the bumper sticker thing end? Because that went on for...
Painted bumpers on cars.
That was it.
Yeah, I can remember being in the ticket office when someone would come up, we were in that transition, and someone would put a bumper sticker on their painted bumper. Oh, it was not.
Guess who went out and took them off?
It wasn't pretty, and then that was it. They were just over.
Yeah, in fact, on the table back there's one of the later versions of the bumper sticker that we've got from that through there. So.
Yeah.
I remember one year we had 3 bumper stickers on the car, and we all took it that we were like really something because we'd gotten the show 3 times. So we've talked about hard work, we've talked about the early days, we've talked about all of that. I want to stay with business for a second before we get into the growth of Branson and of course the growth there. Man, I'm trying to figure out how to ask this in a good way. Somebody mentioned businesses earlier. When I think of the Presleys and I think of the relationships and all of that, you were never hesitant to make the decision that needed to be made. Even if it was a decision maybe you wish you didn't have to make, but it was time to move on or it was time to add something. Just talk about that a little bit.
Well, I think both in the business side of it as far as investing in the business, we were talking earlier back there, the video signs you see up and down Highway 76, we had the original video sign And we were looking, it was late 90, probably 96, 97 along through there. We put that video sign in through there. But there also came the time in the show when we would need to make changes in personnel in the show that it was not always easy to make because our entertainers do become family. And you have to make those decisions for best for the business. And you have to put the personalities aside on through that. And those are difficult decisions to be
Yeah, he
made.
fired my favorite person.
We were just talking about back
Which
that.
things change.
Yeah, but it was, unfortunately, it was necessary at the time, and that person was not doing anything wrong. We just need to make a change in the show lineup and what was going on with it. So, there's a lot of fun. We've been very blessed to do what we do, but there's been a lot of decisions that need to be made that were not always easy.
Well, as far as the business end too, and this has been this way for quite a while. Steve and Ray Ann, they do the hard work as far as in the office.
The financial side of keeping that.
They take care of a lot of that. Now, we all make the decisions on things, but they work their tails off doing that.
Ray Ann is an expert in HR, and she doesn't want to be, but she is, and that's part of what she has to do from there. So.
Well, during these, I mean, everyone's had such a difficult time with COVID, and we've worked so hard to keep all of our employees safe, and yet to continue to operate the business, and that's taken a real team effort because we've, lots of new rules and lots of new ways to think about it, and so yeah, there's been plenty for everybody to step up and do, for sure.
Also, speaking of that with the employees, and we're blessed. But we, like I said, it's not what we've done, but we have never had an employee that did not get his paycheck
On the day they were supposed
on
to.
the day they were supposed to get it in 54 years. And that's not always us. That's God has blessed us with that. And through COVID and everything, and boy, there were times when I was getting ready to go live with Steve Willoughby.
Those were some dark times for him, let me tell you.
So anyway, we've been so blessed with that.
Well, you think about those decisions. I mean, the one thing I will say, that's still happening in great businesses today. And we're in this great facility that remembers the history, and we always want to remember the history. Moving forward, sometimes things need to change. We can still remember and still make the changes. And I was reading in the book your quote talking about this will always be a family show. It's a family show for us, but it's a family show for the audience as well, because as you talked about, generations will come see you.
Yeah, that's
correct.
Also, we did, I figured up, almost 500 shows before we made a penny off of anything out there. The money we made was when we swept the floors and somebody had dropped change out of their pocket. Now, I hate to say that because I drive Cadillacs now and stuff. But anyway, that's true. That is true. It was a long time before we made a penny. Always made sure the employees were paid.
Right.
Well, and the transition of Branson, kind of leading into that a little bit, probably the scariest time for us was the early 90s when all of a sudden Branson was booming and we had all these name entertainers moving in that we were Presleys, we were a local show from that, but the name entertainers moved in. And we had two choices at that point. We could take the choice of, okay, you guys, we don't want you here, go away. Or we could say, welcome, come on in, let's make Branson bigger together on that. And we chose the latter. And the hindsight for us, we got some great friendships. We just ran across a letter from Andy Williams. Yeah, really cool.
Steve's a crier.
I'm a crier.
Me too, Steve. Me too. Must be the name.
Yeah.
But we made that choice, and it really did make a difference, I think, for Branson and for us to say, come in here. Yeah.
And I don't think Gary would mind me saying you were really the face of that as far as going out with those.
Oh, Steve went out and talked to a lot of the people coming in and told them, the Presleys welcome you and everything. And I believe it was Wayne Newton said you were the only family that
we were the first family to greet them. Wayne Newton coming into Branson. I don't know if we were that, but he did remember us that we had welcomed him from that.
Well, I think one of the things that's unique about Branson and entertainers that come here, just the marketing and how Branson positions itself, how we treat our customers. the entertainers came in and they were like, what do you mean you shake hands at the
Yeah,
end
they
of the
didn't
show?
understand.
Why would I do that? I always just leave.
Right.
And so I think Steve was really, helped too to kind of, I don't know, indoctrinate, share, kind of the Branson way with them. And I think it made the whole product that they brought and talent, better for everybody.
Yeah.
So, and there were some entertainers who didn't like that and didn't see the value in that, and honestly, they tended to move on.
Right.
And so I think that was a big, it wasn't just that we said, oh, we're glad you're here, it was that we're glad you're here and we would love for you to be a success, then we'll be a success, and here are some, you know, honestly, some secrets we're willing to share.
I used to say when I had the opportunity to interview those stars moving in, Janet and I would have them on the air, and I always ended that with saying, remember now, Presleys, ball knobbers, you better say hi to people at Walmart, you better be real, because these people will not put up with it. And that's really the case.
Yeah.
You know, you hi-hat somebody and you're in trouble,
Well, in
right?
the end, Andy was so real.
Yes.
You know, I mean, as much as he was a superstar at an amazing level, in the end, he was real.
Right.
He loved his audiences and loved talking to them, and that was very admirable. He fit it.
Andy became a real good friend of ours, and we played a lot of golf together and all. 2 different times, he had 2 of our sons, Greg and Eric, go out to California and stay with him when they had the
His golf tournament, yeah.
Bob
Yeah.
Hope, I think, was the golf tournament, and Chrysler tournament. And our boys would go out, and it was, you know, a big pro tournament, and they would caddy for him out there. So that was a great experience for them, and
Great
just,
honor.
yeah, just it was. Andy was a great friend, good friend.
One more thing about the family. You know, having a business, having a family's tough enough. Having a business and then having a very successful business, that is tough enough. I've never felt like any of the kids felt they had to be on stage. And in fact, the opposite. Was that a conversation you had at some time? Was that just the Presley way? How did that come
Well, they just
about?
knew if they were going to eat, they had to be there.
And that was the deal.
No, I mean, all the kids, they're not all on stage.
Right.
No.
We have family members, Stephen Rand's son, Nick, he graduated from Stanford, out in California. And he's not on stage, but he does video work for us and things like that. So, again, they're not all on stage.
Right.
But if they want to be there and work, we'll find a place for them.
Yeah.
But the openness to not be on stage.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
we know
Yeah.
there are
Yeah.
families
No.
that you're here, right?
Yeah, no, it was really was their choice, but it was their choice if they wanted to be on stage. They had to work at their craft and
They
be
have
there.
to be,
Yeah.
I'll say they have to have some talent about them.
Yeah,
Not,
it's-
not just because they were a family member, they got to be on stage.
Yeah, we were fortunate that kids were talented, and Nick, you know, and Sarah, different directions on what they've done from that point through the.
Sarah
which
can
our,
wave.
Our daughter
Where's Sarah?
Sarah's back in the middle back there.
Sarah, how are you?
But yeah, so each finding their own way from that. But you know, from the family side of it, and kind of moving into the next generation, we're so fortunate. Now Gary's 3 boys, Gary Pat's 3 boys are on the show. Our son John was on the show. Now is doing video business, has video business, so he's not on the show anymore.
Very successful,
But,
sought
yeah.
after video.
But his wife Amber's, fortunately, is still on the show from that point. But that is the future of where we're going. We're you know, coming to the end of our careers, whether we want to or not, just from an age side.
Some of us are worn out.
Of doing that. But you know, watching and now again, Gary's boys, especially Gary Pat's boys, they're the future of what's going to happen with this because they're driving the show. And fortunately, they're all 3 talented and get the business sense of it. That it's going to continue. It's going to be fine. Yeah.
Presleys has always been open to the community. I remember being involved in a very small way with some award shows that were always at the Presleys, and KTTS came down. I mean, that was a big night. And and talk about that a little bit.
Gary, yeah.
Well, we did, yeah. With KTTS Radio in Springfield, we used to do their St. Jude fundraiser, work with them on that. The award shows, that was Dink and Carol Thornburg that had that. That was back in the day. I've got to watch how I say that.
Please.
No, but it's the truth. back when they were having their Hall of Fame
Hall of Fame,
award
yeah.
show.
Which they had a Hall of Fame across the street
Right.
from us at Presleys
Yeah,
there.
anyway, it was the fans voted on favorite shows, favorite this and that categories, and they did it, what, 3 or 4 years or so.
Yeah, and there was only one award show.
One award show, and then the fans, it's kind of like the People's Choice Award. And since then, and those were exciting. We seated 2,000 people back then, and I mean, we'd pack the place. And the other shows were there.
This was
with us,
mid-'80s
too.
is what it was,
Mid-'80s.
yeah.
But since then, you will see shows advertised, they are show of the year. And then you'll see the next theater say, we're show of the year. Well, the way that has worked, there's been there was one guy in town that was picking awards and telling people they were that. And so what I'm saying, it wasn't fans voting. It was, if you see show of the year on stuff and on 2 or 3 shows, it's usually one person that's a writer or something that said they were show of the year.
Or someone, honestly, someone's using it as a promotion vehicle for their own thing. And so you will see lots of awards, and we had a question just not very long ago. Prior to Presleys and those awards, we choose not to participate in those. It's not, it's just when they come up for the awards time and they say, will you all be a part of this? We say, thank you, no. So, it's just kind of our business position.
Yeah.
And again, that is a business position, protecting of the
Yeah.
brand and all of the things that have gone into the brand. Great,
Yeah.
thank you for talking. But it's a memory for a lot of folks because it was such a major deal and a fun deal to
And we
do.
would have, let's see,
Connie Stevens in.
Connie Stevens,
Yeah.
a movie star, was in and was part of the host.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then Ralph Emery, who else?
Yeah, they had several
Several
different ones
others.
they brought in to host that award show. Man,
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
tuxedos, everybody, red carpet rolled in front of the theater. It was a really cool
Yeah.
event.
What are you
would
getting
always-
ready to tell? She's getting ready to tell something.
It would always be at our theater.
Yeah, Rayanne and I, we were excited because we got to dress up in fancy dresses. Yeah, we could have entertained if we had talent.
And we do have pictures of them also of going out promoting to the bus groups. We have pictures of them in Herkimer's overalls. Yeah.
They had their own.
No, we had
but in Herkimer style overalls, out promoting the show to come see us there. They were
Gotta
both
do what you
working
gotta
at
do. Yeah.
That was at the bus conventions and things away from here. So, and they, like me, that got attention. People paid attention to it.
Well, and Pat still, through Gary's comedy, Gary's always, she's Patty Possum Lips. So people look for her at the show every night. They want to know. But Steve's mom, Bessie, would love to sit out in the audience. And her thing was, she could meet you, and within 3 minutes, she could tell you who you were related to.
that she knew. Yeah.
That she knew. It was the craziest thing ever, and so Bessie loved to do that, and people always look for Pat. So that's really, I think that's really special that, that people want to continue to talk and to reminisce. That means
I'm
a lot.
harder to find than I used to.
Well, I make jokes, and I have for all these years, and how big she is. Like she's a little
It's
overweight.
coming true, Greg.
And then when people meet her and see how small she is, they say, that's not true. That's just not true.
It's comedy. Yeah.
It's
Comedy
I'm trying to
license.
fulfill their dream.
Welcome to my world. Then add COVID to it.
Yes,
And
yes.
that's the topping.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at the watches. It looks like we have about 15 minutes here.
Okay.
So I knew it would go fast. When we talk about whether it's an award show or whatever, when you have Paul Harvey and Regis and people like that talking about your show, was there ever a time that it was just you guys and you looked in a mirror and goes, wow, what has happened
Oh, we
with all
still,
of this?
We do that every
we
day.
still do that.
Yeah.
We still, I tell people, in fact, I told them this, I think at that Hall of Fame thing, we were in Springfield. I said, I know I'm gonna wake up someday and I still live on Lexington or Farmer Streets in Springfield and tell everybody, you will not believe the dream I just had. And it's just unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, it just the people we've been able to meet and become friends with, it's been really, it's amazing. We're so blessed. It's hard to think about what all has happened, and now seeing our kids and the business continue. It's really there's not many businesses that continue over 50 years, especially family businesses that keep going from that. So,
Yeah.
I will say that, because obviously Pat and I don't entertain, so we don't get to feel that side of it. But to be part of a business, there have been over the years so many wonderful, touching things that people will, now I'll cry, you know, people that will tell us that their child that maybe was handicapped, they buried him with, surrounded with Presley memorabilia. You know, but we do constantly get letters and phone calls. Sarah fields a lot of those for us where, you know, I just lost my dad, but I want to tell you, you know, it was his most favorite thing in the world was to come and sit on you know, on the front row and laugh and laugh and laugh. And then, you know, a couple years later, the family will come back and we thought it'd be so hard, but oh my gosh, it brought back so many wonderful memories for us. And so I think, you know, there's the talk about keeping the business alive in your family and all of those things, but really, honestly, I think what this family has done is brought so much joy to so many people over so many years in ways that might be illogical, honestly, but it is meaningful. And so when I think about when we leave this world, I think we can be really proud of that.
Absolutely.
Saturday, it was Friday or Saturday night, there was a lady came down at intermission and talked to me, and she said her husband had ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. They were from northern Colorado, never been to Branson, but his bucket list, on his bucket list, was coming to see our show.
because of RFD TV.
Because they watch us on RFD TV. Anyway, and I talked to her, and then I went out and talked to him quite a bit after the show. And I mean, things like that, like Rayanne says, it's just, you know, that's humbling. Why, you know, why would people put that much stock in us? But they do. And we're so thankful and grateful.
But talk about the hard work. I used to say on the radio, I'm glad I don't have a real job. But that's hard work, being in front of the people and being on. And if you two had a disagreement, you can't worry about that. You've got to go on and do and be there every night because it's somebody's first show or somebody's coming to see you. I mean, that's tough for entertainers, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, well, most entertainers, though, when they open the refrigerator door and the light comes on, they go into it.
Ah, what a joke.
Yeah, I mean, but fortunately, we all still enjoy it. That, you know, no matter what happened today, what you're dealing with from that point, when that curtain goes up, it's still fun. Yeah, that's the thing that really makes it work.
And if you can't have fun on stage, then you're probably going to have a conversation with Steve at some point, and there'll be somebody else having
We talk to entertainers every once in a while. It gets to be a little old to them, and they're standing there thinking about going home or whatever. We have to talk and say we need to smile. That period, you know. So.
What did it mean when Paul Harvey did a Rest of the Story and it was about your family?
That was very cool.
Oh,
That was just that happened. That was a weird circumstance that coming around. I was actually buying a piece of equipment for the show that we still use. It's a sound machine that has the 360. You're familiar with the radio. It has all these recorded sounds on there. And it was a guy in Chicago that was a dealer for him. Ends up he was the head engineer for Paul Harvey. And so I called to get this machine. We got to talking about it, and all of a sudden he was wanting to know about what our family did. That connection came in, and he said, I'm going to pitch this to Paul and see if he might want to do a story. So he did a story based on that. Really about Dad is what it was about, and from that.
And trading his Dad's brother Don, when Dad was a kid, traded a hound dog for a guitar, and Dad ended up with a guitar.
And that's what got Dad into music from that point through there. And so that story came around. What was really even more cool was 10 years later they came back and Paul Harvey did a rest of the story about it again. So it was pretty cool. It really is. Yeah.
Well, I was, and this is definitely when 60 Minutes came to Branson. I was out working in our garage doing something, and the phone rings, and I answer it, and the guy said, "This is Andy Wolf with 60 Minutes in New York." Well, I thought somebody was just putting me on, you know. But it was, and we were the first ones 60 Minutes contacted down here. And They wanted to include us in the story.
Yeah,
And
they did their research and they felt that we were the ones that should be in that story, so.
Yeah,
That was fairly easy research. I mean, it was a pretty easy conclusion to come to.
There was a couple, 3 choices, so.
Yeah, 2 or 3 choices, but that was something. So that's not what him calling and talking to me, but when Branson was on 60 Minutes, that's what really kicked things off.
Yeah.
Now, most everybody probably knows that, but anyway, it all started with that call.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons, talking a little shop here, one of the reasons that is so impressive is because you couldn't get that audience now because there's so many different streaming services and so much.
There's not a show that has the audience that 60 Minutes has.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And for that
Big impact. Well, perspective of that, that show aired in December of 91, and we'd been in business 25 years or so at that point. The next year, there were so many people came to Branson, we were up like 30%. The whole town was just inundated with people coming in here, but we benefited from that. It was a huge increase in in traffic coming into our show. So yeah, big impact.
As it looks like we've got a few minutes. When you look at the future of Branson, the future of Presleys, what comes to your mind? What do you think about?
Are kids eating?
Survival, but I don't know. We like being in a position as a business. We've been here so long that when people come to Branson, it's something they think they shouldn't have to see, but we need to see if we go to Branson. Like if you go to Nashville, the Grand Ole Opry, or Florida, Disney World, or something like that. So that's a position. I don't say we're there. We're pretty close to that, I think. So we're having a lot of people show up. So
Yeah.
I tend to think that Branson, I think that it's always interesting to me that whatever moment you moved to Branson was the moment you thought it was perfect and it should never change. And you'd like to shut the doors behind you as you come in. And so I think what we all have to be aware of is that the area will change. And Sarah's version of what Branson will be different than Steve's version. And we have to be okay with that. We just have to realize that there is no one magical formula that makes our area great, other than are people respectful here? Do they work hard? Are they caring for their neighbor? Those kind of traits. As long as those things survive, then I'm not so worried about whether there's a shopping mall or 10 theaters or more roller coasters. I think we have to hold on to that trait of
culture,
people in the Ozarks. And if we hold on to that, I'm not so much worried about what the makeup of the tourist product is, because we'll succeed as an area if we can do that.
Well said. Well said.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good, clean family shows.
that's
No alcohol.
that's true.
No alcohol.
That-
That just blows my mind.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And
Well,
then
you go to Vegas and that's all you get is
Yeah.
alcohol
Right.
at the shows.
And two, back to the Ozarks flavor, which is what you're saying. It's all people still want it to be the Ozarks. There's people that don't. There's people that come in here that want to change it from where they grew up in Chicago or California or whatever. Well, then why did you come here? You know, why didn't you stay there? So, but like Rand said, it will change, but we need to hold on to our Ozarks flavor.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Gary, if you had to choose between the golf course and the lake, which one would you go with?
Golf course.
Golf course every
Oh,
time?
I
yeah.
think you say between the golf course and me.
It is the golf.
Okay, now let's have that question.
I know the answer.
I am not man enough to ask that question, and I'm man enough to admit it. 5 minutes. So this probably is not the question to go with for 5 minutes, and this is something I have always compared the Presleys with. When I look at Lloyd Presley, I think of Hugo Hershen. And I never met Hugo Hershen. I don't know the type of person he was other than his legacy. But if you think about that, Hugo had 2 sons and Lloyd has 2 sons, and you look at what how the area would have been different if Hugo and Mary hadn't ended up here, and how the area would have been different if you guys hadn't have ended up here.
Yeah.
There's not a question there. Just kind of give me some feedback.
Well, Dad, as Steve said, Dad or whoever, Dad was a dreamer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dad, well, how do I say this?
You want me to say it for you?
Dad didn't work real hard. He was a dreamer. And he worked.
He would do the physical work. He would do the physical work
Yeah.
of mowing and that
Right,
kind of stuff.
stuff like
But
that.
even from the show side of it, and
Yeah.
to Gary's credit on that, those early years, Gary was behind putting the show together.
Right.
All that.
Well,
he was.
it wasn't me by myself. I appreciate
But
that.
well, especially those early years, though, you took on
Yeah.
a lot of that load by.
But anyway, Dad was more of a dreamer, as I said, than he was.
Yeah.
Steve and I we'd climb the septic tank and during the show if it had to be unstopped.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Because you had a flood once.
Yeah, we
I
did.
read about that.
Yeah.
Oh, is that right? Oh, yeah. I've gone out many years ago, but had on our nice clothes at the end of the show, and the septic system or something had backed up, and I climbed in and got it unstopped. So.
Yeah.
Small business ownership.
Small business ownership.
And then you go back, you change your clothes, go back in, and like, man, I'm a star. No, you're not. You just cleaned the septic tank.
And even to this day, Gary's he's responsible and taking care of the air conditioning. And I just went back last week. I said, Gary's a little hot in the auditorium. I'll go check it. So he's out during the show checking the air conditioning and just to make sure
Climbing
they're
up
working.
on top of the building
Yeah.
during the show. So that's true. So.
Wow.
Can we
Thank
ask
you for all you've
questions?
done. Yeah, real quick, do you have a question?
Well, a couple of them. Being from Illinois, you meet a lot of people that spend the Branson. The first 2 words come out of their mouths, and this is the truth. Have you seen the Presleys and the Ball Knobbers? Never about the other entertainers. The Presleys and the Ball Knobbers.
Yeah.
That's the 2 that click for Branson.
Well, thanks. That's yeah.
It's a great honor for you guys to do what you do. You should be proud. Your daddy set the path for where you're at today.
Well, thank you.
And that's an honor that you are blessed with.
Right. And I hope we haven't sounded too self-serving up here.
No.
You deserve it.
We
You deserve it.
we're just trying to tell you kind of how everything has really happened.
Sometimes we forget when people work really hard like this, all of the other vendors, all of the other families, all of the other, not only just seeing them, but my family who benefited and was able to, feed the kids 3 out of 7 days usually, those types of things. So we all come together to make that happen. I'm just going to step aside. I hope I wasn't in the way too much. This has been a great honor.
Thank you.
I did want to let everyone know, although these books were published several years ago, we brought books, so take them with you. They're free. Take them with you. And to remind people, Sarah typed up, we do area appreciation shows. When we do the area appreciation shows, if you live in Stone or Taney County, it's free. So, and the dates for that, so we'd love to have you come out, and then we have a local discount as well. And then if you work in a tourist business, of course, we trade all the time with tourism businesses. But take that with you, and I know here in December we'll be doing Christmas shows, and it's free if you live in the area. So we wanted to let you know.
Our last week of shows in December.
Also, real quick, Sarah, stand up so everybody can see you. There's Sarah. That's Stephen Ray Anderson's daughter. She works at the office.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for this opportunity.
Steve, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Steve.
And thank the Presleys so very much. This is probably the last opportunity we'll have today to thank them and say how wonderful they are. And next time is when you go to the show.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you all for coming.